my studio. And I didn't realize I was really being exploited for free back then. Mark's always been one step ahead of me and everything. And I still told him, I said, I think you still owe me for some of those sessions.
Well, Mark was on the show in April.
Did he tell you he exploited me back then?
Yes.
That's why he runs labels and I don't.
Yeah, he mentioned your name.
No, I love it. He's my dear friend.
That's funny.
I learned a lot.
At what age did you, after starting to do sessions in Nashville, right, and kind of getting acclimated to the session, world, at what age and what point did you leave Nashville to go to LA, to go to the West Coast, and what took you, how did that transpire? What happened that took you out there?
As a guitar player, growing up, I grew up not listening to country music at all. I had no, even though I grew up with Gordon Kennedy, Jerry Kennedy's son, who ran Mercury Records, and famous producer, famous guitar player. I grew up with Grady Martin's son too. Can you imagine all these guitar players I was hanging out with? It was really great. But I had no interest at that point in country music. It just didn't register for me. I respected it, but it just wasn't my cup of tea. And when I was 18, I think I did my first session with a bass player named David Hungate, who had just left LA in the supergroup Toto. And he just basically said, as a guitar player, if you're a rock guitar player, you really haven't made it to move out to the West Coast.
Right.
And all my heroes, the heroes who play the style that I like to play were out there. Mm-hmm. And through a series of events, I won't bore you with that, but I had an opportunity. I just got married, and to my junior high school sweetheart. And her father had said a year prior that when I asked for her hand, she said, "It's great, just don't take her far away from Nashville." 1 year later, we moved to LA. Horrible thing. But I had an opportunity, and I was 22. I just turned 22, and didn't have any money, but had some good prospects out there. And I stepped into, I just lucked out, really. The guy who had the main cheer out there was a guy named Steve Lukather, who was a brilliant guitar player, and I know his name. So, and Steve had a band that was just taking off, and when he left session playing, there was just this massive hole to fill, and it wasn't just me. There was other players out there who were dynamic, but needless to say, there was a lot of work. I had a producer out there, a friend named Robbie Buchanan, an arranger. He said, "You could do it." I didn't read music very well, but I took it on faith and went out.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you about that, the fact that you didn't study music per se and learn how to read and play.
Well, I played piano, but I just didn't read well.
But mostly on guitar, played by ear.
Yeah.
Pretty much. And was that a tough transition to do studio work? Like, were they throwing charts at you?
They were, and I read well enough to get into big trouble. I was a good enough musician by ear. And it was when you were on the movie or the television sessions.
Yeah.
That's when it became crazy. And it wasn't until a couple of years in and I made my name play on the records that they were happy for you to do whatever you want to do because they thought you'd bring something special. So it was a negotiation of something. There were people who could read all the tough parts. Every time I saw something tough, I'd try to sneak it to the other guitar players. and I learned really quick on that.
Are they as respectful in LA, in the studios of musicians and what they bring to the sessions as they are in Nashville?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, at least when I was out there, yes. As a matter of fact, I think it was a little lopsided. I think musicians were a bit of the rock stars out there. I noticed it. And I was lucky enough to hang out with people like Jeff Beccaro and people like that, who I learned. I don't know how to describe it. From my viewpoint, those were the greatest session players at that one given point in the 70s and 80s in LA. But like I said, the style of music I liked. And not discounting Nashville one little bit. It was just that was where my head was at. And so to be amongst these people and it's funny because they were so great. I learned so much from them. And musicians are musicians. Wherever you are. Nashville so evened up the playing field in the 90s. All of a sudden there was a little bit of money in Nashville. And when I was growing up in the 80s, Nashville still had a little chip on the shoulder about LA. Kind of a stepchild kind of syndrome, And that evened out well into the 90s. And now all my friends in Los Angeles I would say, are somewhat jealous of Nashville. Yeah, because we still have a live situation here where musicians still play together, and it pretty much is non-existent elsewhere in this country. So I'm thrilled, obviously, to be here.
Yeah.
since '90, so.
When you